the idea of the 4 questions that were sent out on the training material. What kind of actors involved in the institution, why they're important, which are the actors involved, and what challenges would be encountered. And before we started the work group, we came with the ideas, which would be the expected results of that discussion, which actors are relevant, when, what is the role, best practices and challenges of difficulties. So that's the, let's say, starting framing for the discussion we had. So starting on who, we came to the mutual agreement that it depends on the institution, the organization, and the project. So there's not a specific or definite answer to that question. It depends on these specific things, and also on, especially in projects, the role of the actors, it changes over time on the different phases of the project. Talking about the challenges, you can see we've got some challenges here. So how, for example, how to weigh between the importance, the relevance of different experts or stakeholders. The arguments made could be found in more representative about the debate. So it also depends on the phase and in the project. So it's a little, it could be a challenge or could be difficult to be able to weight this different relevance or importance of the different experts or stakeholders on the different phases. Politicians may not have the background to understand some technological developments. For one example that was mentioned was genomics or neuroscience, for example. So that's closely related to sometimes academics do not understand how politicians work, because they sometimes we all think about evidence-based policy making. Posita talks about that a lot. So we don't understand that a lot of times politicians have their agendas, they represent people. A good example was that, let's say a politician represents a group of people that are against GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and then the scientists give a report to the politicians, here's evidence that there's nothing wrong with that and that's okay. And they expect the politicians to change their mind, and that's not usually what happens. If they're representing people that are against that, they just can't change their ideas because the researchers told them that. So there are other aspects that also influence their decisions. So that and adapting the speech for politicians from the scientific papers and information, and also when you need to address that to lay people, if they're involved in the project, you also need to be able to adapt that speech from the scientific speech so that lay people can understand better what's trying to be told over there. So in that communication thing, team communication and knowledge sharing might be difficult in big institutions. In my example, ETAS in Germany, we are currently 135 people involved in the institute. So it might be a little bit difficult sometimes to share knowledge and have communication amongst everybody, and it's very decentralized with research areas and so on and so forth to get it a little bit better. So you could have different ways to addressing that challenge or difficulty depending on the institute or institutional framing. Also, you have publish or perish. If you are inside an university institutional framing, for example, you really need to be always publishing new scientific papers so that you stay relevant and you stay in the game. You cannot just work with policy advice, but that also depends on the institute or the organization. Sometimes it's more to one thing or the other, so it might become a challenge depending on the situation. And money funding is also an issue, I guess, always. So the criteria to choose a project, how it can be funded, if it can be a democratic choice or not, if it's going to be market driven or not. So all of these things about how you can fund a project, sometimes it starts with the money and then you can focus more on what you're going to do, and sometimes you start with, okay, this is what we want to do and let's see if we can try funding for that. So that's also a challenge. And last but not least, the best practices, of course, for the team communication challenge, you can have staff meetings or team meetings that could be weekly or monthly. They could be involving everybody in the organization, or break down into the research areas inside the organizations, and to address specifically the different actors. The question also on communication, adapting the speech, that's something that's really important to work on that. And when you're giving your recommendations or options or suggestions, that's something really important to focus on the communication part of that process. Does anyone in the group have anything else to add to this?
That's great.
So I guess that's it. Thank you.